Welcome to Explosive True Crime Stories, where we bring you the most shocking true crime stories and events.
Kindly support us by subscribing to this channel. Hit the notification bell icon so you won't miss our latest videos.
Dumb bitch.
I ain't never been an actor. Patch a nigga with that cap shit. We gon' stump his ass like a cap. The mayor, what she call me master. Got it to.
Disturbing new details in the disappearance of a 23-year-old woman who went missing in Las Vegas on December 7th. Our Isabella Martin is live at Metro right now with new details on what police say happened to her. Isabella.
Metro has provided an update saying they found her body and they believe to know who's responsible in her death.
These are the final moments of Mirena Rogers' life, caught on surveillance video, now the center of the investigation into her two alleged killers.
Pro NBA star and ex-girlfriend charged with murder of Washington medical assistant. What started as a fun getaway to Las Vegas for 23-year-old Mirena Rogers, a dedicated nurse and beloved daughter, ended in unimaginable tragedy. How did a young woman, full of life and dreams, go from enjoying a trip with friends to being lured into a deadly trap? What secrets were hidden beneath the bright lights of Vegas that led to her body being found in a desolate desert, miles away from the bustling strip? And how did two unlikely suspects, an ex-NBA star and his teenage ex-girlfriend, plot her brutal murder over something as seemingly trivial as a stolen watch and a grudge? This isn't just a story of a life lost. It's a tale of betrayal, calculated violence, and the dark truths that can lie beneath even the most trusted relationships. Stay with us as we uncover the chilling details behind Mirena's tragic final days.
This is the 17-page arrest report into the murder of 23-year-old Mirena Rogers. According to this report, her suspected killers planned it all out before dumping her body in a rocky desert area of Henderson. Mirena Rogers was last seen at around 1 a.m. on December 6th after meeting up with her suspected killers, 19-year-old Sakari Harnden and former G League basketball player Chance Comanche. That's according to an arrest report from Metro Police. The report identifies Rogers as a prostitute who was friends with fellow sex worker Harnden. Investigators say Harnden and Comanche were worried about knowledge Rogers had on a previous crime involving a boyfriend of Harnden. The report says Sakari was upset at Mirena for telling other people. Also, according to the report, Comanche told police he and Harnden came up with a plan to lure Rogers back to their car for sex. And a text thread from November 30th to December 6th shows the former couple joking about ways they would kill her, like an overdose or using a gun. Investigators say Comanche confessed to police he and Harnden tied Rogers' hands. Then, Comanche strangled Rogers with an HDMI cord while Harnden choked her out. Comanche says they then found a place to dump the body. Both Metro Police and the Clark County Coroner's Office say the remains were found in a rocky desert area of Henderson. Neighbors living in the McCullough Hills area claim Rogers was found in this wash. Both Comanche and Harnden are facing open murder and kidnapping charges. Comanche appeared in Sacramento court Tuesday and faces extradition to Clark County. Harnden will appear in court Wednesday in connection to this case.
Mirena Rogers was not someone who sought the spotlight. At just 23 years old, she had built a stable and fulfilling life in Linwood, Washington. She worked as a medical assistant, a profession that allowed her to channel her compassion and meticulous nature into helping others. Friends described her as fiercely loyal and someone who always went the extra mile for the people she cared about. Outside of work, her world revolved around her two beloved dogs, who she treated like family. Her close-knit relationships with her friends and family painted the picture of a young woman who was grounded, driven, and deeply loved. But this seemingly ordinary life was shattered in an instant, raising a haunting question. How does a person like Morena, with no known enemies, end up the victim of such a brutal crime? Chance Comanche, at 27 years old, had lived a life that couldn't have been more different. A professional basketball player who once walked the hallowed courts of the NBA, he was no stranger to fame and fortune. From his time at the University of Arizona to his brief stint with the Portland Trail Blazers, Comanche had been a figure of admiration for fans across the country. At the time of the crime, he was playing for the Stockton Kings in the NBA G League, a path that kept him in the public eye, if not quite in its center. On the other hand, Sakari Harnden was just 19, a far cry from the structured world of professional sports. Her connection to Morena was complex, rooted in a friendship that had veered into conflict. Though her life seemed to operate in the shadows, what little is known suggests a personality capable of both manipulation and charm. It was this combination investigators believe. Their relationship, once amicable, began to unravel over a dispute involving a stolen Rolex watch. Harden accused Morena of being involved in the theft, a claim that added a layer of distrust to an already strained connection. But this wasn't the only point of tension. Harden had also alleged that Morena's boyfriend was connected to a double homicide in California. Whether this claim had any basis in truth remains unclear, but its introduction further poisoned an already volatile relationship. The animosity between the two escalated, each interaction seemingly more charged than the last. For Morena, these disputes were likely nuisances she hoped to resolve or move past. For Harnden, however, investigators would later suggest, these incidents planted the seeds for something far darker. What began as accusations and disagreements spiraled into a calculated act of violence that would leave one young woman dead and another facing the weight of justice. What happened in the days and weeks leading up to this tragedy? And how did a celebrated athlete become entangled in this explosive conflict? As the story unfolds, the answers grow darker and the questions even more troubling. The investigation into Morena Rodgers' disappearance began with urgency and unease. When her friends in Las Vegas realized she hadn't returned to their shared accommodations, concern quickly escalated. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and when her location tracker last pinged in a desolate area near Summerlin, those fears turned into panic. Friends and family in Washington confirmed the gravity of the situation. Her dogs, car, and personal belongings were untouched back home. Morena was not someone who vanished without explanation. Authorities faced immediate challenges. Las Vegas, with its transient population and bustling nightlife, is no stranger to missing persons cases. But this one felt different. Investigators meticulously traced Morena's movements on December 6, 2023. She had entered an Uber late that evening, her destination taking her far from the glittering Las Vegas Strip. Surveillance footage from nearby streets and businesses corroborated this timeline but offered little clarity on what happened next. A key breakthrough came 6 days later when police apprehended Sakari Harnden. During questioning, Harnden admitted to detaining Morena, revealing the grim truth. This wasn't a random disappearance. Her confession implicated her as an active participant in a horrifying plan, and her connection to Chance Comanche, a former NBA player, added a shocking twist to an already disturbing case. On December 15, FBI agents descended on Sacramento, California, where Chance Comanche was taken into custody. During questioning, Comanche made a series of stunning admissions. Not only did he confirm his involvement, but he also provided the exact location of Morena's remains. The chilling discovery of her body in a remote desert ditch near Henderson, Nevada, marked a devastating conclusion to the search. She had been hidden beneath rocks, her life stolen, and her story now intertwined with a dark and violent crime. As the investigation deepened, the evidence painted a harrowing picture of premeditated murder. Text messages exchanged between Harden, Comanche, and a third individual revealed the calculated planning behind the crime. These weren't vague discussions or impulsive outbursts, they were explicit, detailed communications. In one exchange, Comanche wrote, "I can snap her neck or just strangle the beat." Harnden responded with chilling nonchalance, contributing ideas and discussing logistics. The messages also revealed failed attempts to hire a hitman. The pair had offered $3,000 to an intermediary, but when the plan fell apart, they decided to carry out the murder themselves. Investigators learned how they lured Morena under the guise of a lucrative double prostitution meetup. Harnden, posing as a client, promised $1,000 for services, while Comanche waited to execute the plan. Once Morena was inside the vehicle, her hands were zip-tied under the pretense of a kinky request. What followed was an act of brutal violence. Comanche and Harnden, acting in unison, used an HDMI cord to strangle her. Forensic evidence later confirmed the details of this method. Marks on Morena's body matched the ligature used. Witness testimony added to the mountain of evidence. Friends of Morena recalled tense encounters between her and Harnden leading up to the trip, while others described Harden's increasingly erratic behavior. The discovery of Morena's DNA in the suspect's vehicle further solidified their involvement. With the case against them mounting, the legal process began. Both Harnan and Comanche faced initial charges of first-degree kidnapping and murder, but these were swiftly upgraded after a Clark County grand jury issued indictments for open murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The severity of these charges reflected the calculated nature of the crime, and prosecutors were unrelenting in their pursuit of justice. The defense teams for both suspects tried to chip away at the prosecution's case. Harnan's attorneys argued that her youth and susceptibility to influence should mitigate her role. They painted her as a young woman who had been manipulated by a much older Comanche. Comanche's defense took a different approach, emphasizing his cooperation with authorities, including providing the location of Morena's body. They argued this demonstrated remorse and should be considered in sentencing. Prosecutors, however, presented a united front, arguing that both suspects had acted with full knowledge of their actions. The premeditation, detailed in text messages and corroborated by forensic evidence, left little room for doubt. While the death penalty was considered due to the heinous nature of the crime, it was ultimately set aside in favor of life imprisonment without parole. As the trial looms, the community braces for more revelations. What strategies will the defense use to counter the overwhelming evidence? Will the full extent of the suspect's motives be revealed, or will some questions remain unanswered? The investigation may have concluded with arrests and indictments, but for Morena's family, the pain of her loss is unending. The courtroom promises justice, but no verdict can undo the tragedy. As the public follows the case, one question echoes louder than any other. How could something so brutal, so calculated, happen to a young woman who deserved so much more? The answers may come in court, but the impact of this crime will linger far beyond the trial. For the family and friends of Morena Rogers, the news of her murder was devastating. In Linwood, Washington, her hometown was struck by a wave of grief that rippled through her tight-knit community. Morena wasn't just another name in the news. She was a vibrant, caring young woman who touched the lives of everyone who knew her. Her mother, a pillar of strength for the family, spoke through tears in a statement to the press. "Morena was more than just my daughter. She was my best friend. Her smile could brighten any room, and her laugh was infectious. We've lost someone truly special, someone who had so much more life to live." Friends echoed this sentiment, sharing stories of a woman who was compassionate and loyal. One friend recalled, "Morena was the type of person who would drop everything to help you. If you were having a bad day, she'd show up at your door with your favorite coffee just because she wanted to see you smile." Her co-workers at the medical office where she worked as an assistant remembered her dedication and professionalism. "She cared deeply for her patients," said her supervisor. "She wasn't just doing a job. She truly wanted to make a difference in people's lives. We've lost a bright light, and the world feels dimmer without her in it." As the investigation unfolded and the horrifying details of the crime emerged, the grief of her family transformed into a steely resolve. "We won't let Morena be forgotten," her father declared at a vigil held in her honor. "She deserves justice, and we will fight to ensure that those responsible for taking her from us are held accountable." The vigil drew hundreds of attendees, all united in their sorrow and determination. Friends, family, neighbors, and even strangers gathered to light candles, share memories, and demand justice. Many wore pins with Moreno's photo and the words "Justice for Moreno" printed boldly across them. The event was a testament to the impact she had on those around her and the community's refusal to let her story fade away. Her family worked tirelessly to keep her memory alive, speaking at community events and working with advocacy groups to raise awareness about violence against women. They launched the Morena Rogers Foundation, dedicated to providing support for young women in vulnerable situations. "We can't bring Morena back," her mother said at the foundation's launch, "but we can ensure that her legacy helps protect others." The shockwaves of Chance Comanche's arrest reverberated far beyond Linwood. As news broke that the former NBA player was implicated in Morena's murder, the sports world was thrown into turmoil. For fans who had cheered his rise from college basketball star to professional athlete, the revelation was almost impossible to process. Comanche's former team, the Stockton Kings, acted quickly, releasing a brief but definitive statement. "Chance Comanche has been released from our organization, effective immediately. We are deeply saddened by the circumstances surrounding this situation and extend our condolences to the victim's family." The Kings' decision was met with a mix of relief and disappointment. Relief that they distanced themselves from the crime, but disappointment that such action was even necessary. Sports analysts dissected the case from every angle, discussing how an athlete with so much potential could fall so far. "It's a cautionary tale," said one commentator. "Comanche had everything: talent, opportunity, and a platform, and yet, here we are, talking about him in the context of a murder trial." Former teammates of Comanche expressed a range of emotions. Some were shocked, others heartbroken. "I played alongside Chance for a year," said one player. "He was quiet, focused on his game. I just can't reconcile the person I knew with the person being described in this case." The public reaction was swift and intense. Social media platforms were inundated with posts expressing outrage, disbelief, and sorrow. Hashtags like "Justice for Morena" and "No Excuse for Violence" trended for weeks as users shared their thoughts on the case and offered condolences to Morena's family. "I can't stop thinking about her," one user wrote. "She was just living her life, trying to make her way in the world. This shouldn't have happened to her." The case also reignited broader conversations about violence against women, particularly in vulnerable professions. Advocacy groups seized the moment to highlight systemic issues and push for stronger protections. "This isn't just a tragedy, it's a wake-up call," said one activist during a televised panel discussion. "We need to address the conditions that allow violence like this to occur and ensure that justice is served." Media coverage was relentless. News outlets ran in-depth pieces on every aspect of the case, from Chance Comanche's basketball career to the relationship dynamics between him, Harnden, and Morena. True crime podcasts dedicated episodes to the case, dissecting the timeline, evidence, and courtroom proceedings. The story captivated the nation, a horrifying reminder that no one, no matter how successful or celebrated, is immune to the consequences of their actions. The fallout extended beyond the courtroom and sports arena. Fans, teammates, and the community at large grappled with the unsettling reality of the crime. For many, the juxtaposition of Chance Comanche's public persona with the dark details of his involvement was deeply unsettling. "How do you reconcile cheering for someone one day and then hearing they've been accused of something so horrific the next?" asked one fan in an interview. "It's hard to process." For Morena's family and friends, however, the focus remained clear. This wasn't about the notoriety of the accused or the headlines that followed. It was about Morena, her life, her dreams, and the legacy she left behind. As the trial approached, the community rallied once more, determined to see justice done. "We'll be there for every hearing, every testimony," her father said. "This isn't just about punishment, it's about honoring Morena and ensuring that her story inspires change." In the end, the story of Morena Rogers is one of unimaginable loss, but also of resilience. Her memory continues to inspire those who knew her and those who have been touched by her story, a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, the pursuit of justice and the fight for change can endure. The story of Morena Rogers isn't just one of a life stolen too soon. It's a chilling reflection of the dangers that lurk in betrayal and unchecked violence. This case, rooted in trust that was twisted into manipulation and murder, forces us to grapple with the fragility of human relationships. How do we navigate a world where even those we consider friends may harbor intentions that are anything but kind? Morena's murder also exposes a grim reality about violence. It is often perpetrated not by strangers, but by people familiar to the victim. This betrayal cuts deeper than the physical act, leaving emotional wounds for those left behind. For her family and friends, the knowledge that Morena's killers were individuals she once trusted, compounded. Trust, once shattered, casts a long shadow, and this case has sparked conversations nationwide about vigilance, personal safety, and recognizing red flags in relationships. Could anyone have foreseen the lengths to which Harnden and Comanche would go? And if they had, would it have been enough to stop the chain of events that led to this tragedy? For Chance Comanche, the questions run even deeper. Once celebrated for his talent on the basketball court, his fall from grace is both spectacular and sobering. How does someone with the opportunity to inspire millions end up embroiled in such a heinous crime? Was it entitlement bred from fame, a belief that his status rendered him untouchable, or something more deeply rooted in his character? Comanche's involvement has ignited a debate about the pressures of fame and the ways in which success can distort accountability. Professional athletes live under constant scrutiny, their every move analyzed and often idolized. But this spotlight can also create blind spots, allowing troubling behavior to go unchecked. Did anyone in his circle notice warning signs? Could intervention at any point in his career have changed the trajectory that led to this crime? For Zachary Harden, the questions are no less troubling. At just 19 years old, she stands accused of not only participating in but orchestrating a murder. How does someone so young, with her whole life ahead of her, spiral into such darkness? Was it manipulation by an older partner, a lack of support systems, or a deliberate choice born of greed and anger? These questions don't have easy answers, but they demand reflection. Harden's age and circumstances serve as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities young people face, especially when exposed to toxic relationships or environments. Her involvement underscores the importance of identifying and addressing behavioral issues before they escalate into violence. The case has also shed light on the broader societal factors that can create conditions for such tragedies. Economic pressures, unresolved personal conflicts, and the pervasive allure of quick solutions, whether through theft, exploitation, or violence, are all part of this story. Addressing these systemic issues is a daunting but necessary task if we hope to prevent similar tragedies in the future. As of now, the legal battle for justice is ongoing. Both Sakari Harnan and Chance Comanche remain in custody, awaiting their day in court. The trial, scheduled for March 2025, is expected to be lengthy and highly publicized. Prosecutors have built a formidable case, fortified by confessions, digital evidence, and forensic findings. However, the defense teams are preparing to challenge every aspect of the narrative presented by law enforcement. For Harnden, her defense is likely to focus on her age and the influence of her older accomplice. Her attorneys have hinted at arguments that she was manipulated by Comanche, portraying her as a victim of circumstances rather than the mastermind of the crime. For Comanche, the defense strategy may center on his cooperation with authorities, particularly his role in leading investigators to Morena's body. His legal team is expected to argue that this cooperation demonstrates remorse and should mitigate the severity of his punishment. Despite these efforts, the weight of the evidence is overwhelming. Text messages explicitly outlining the murder plot, forensic evidence tying both suspects to the crime, and their own confessions leave little room for doubt. The prosecution has stated unequivocally that they will seek the maximum penalties allowable under the law, though they stop short of pursuing the death penalty. The courtroom will be a battleground not only for justice but for the truth. What truly motivated this crime? Were there external influences that pushed Harden and Comanche to such extremes? Or was this purely the result of personal greed and anger? As the trial unfolds, the answers to these questions may finally come to light. Law enforcement has urged anyone with additional information to come forward, emphasizing that even small details could be crucial in building an airtight case. "We believe there are still pieces of this puzzle out there," a spokesperson for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said. "If you know something, please don't hesitate to contact us." The case has already left a lasting impact on those closest to Morena and on the broader community. Her family continues to channel their grief into action, working tirelessly to ensure that her story sparks change. Through the Morena Rogers Foundation, they are advocating for greater protections for vulnerable individuals. For the sports world, this case is a stark reminder of the responsibilities that come with fame. The NBA and its affiliates are grappling with renewed calls to address the pressures faced by athletes, particularly those transitioning out of the spotlight. Mental health support, ethical education, and mentorship programs are among the measures being discussed to prevent future incidents of this nature. As the trial looms and the nation watches, one thing remains clear: Morena Rogers will not be forgotten. Her story has become a rallying cry for justice, a symbol of the devastating consequences of unchecked violence, and a reminder of the resilience of those left behind. Her family's resolve serves as an inspiration to all who have been touched by this case. Morena's life was taken, but her legacy is just beginning, her father said. "We will fight for her, not just in court, but in every way we can, to make the world a safer place for others." The road to justice is far from over, but the lessons of this tragedy are already being felt. As a nation mourns the loss of a bright young life, it also confronts the systemic issues and personal failures that allowed such a crime to occur. Through reflection, advocacy, and action, Morena's story has the power to bring about meaningful change, ensuring that her memory lives on in a way that honors her life and spirit. What does justice look like for a life so cruelly taken? The courtroom will provide some answers, but the legacy of this case and the change it inspires may be the truest testament to the fight for justice for Morena Rogers. This is a story of heartbreak and betrayal, of lives intersecting in a way that led to unimaginable tragedy. At its center was Morena Rogers, a 23-year-old medical assistant from Linwood, Washington, whose life was filled with promise, love, and dreams of a bright future. She was betrayed by people she once trusted, lured into a deadly trap that ended in the Nevada desert. We followed the timeline of her disappearance, the investigation that revealed a carefully planned murder, and the arrests of her killers, former NBA player Chance Comanche and his accomplice Sakari Harden. The evidence was overwhelming: text messages, confessions, and forensic findings that painted a grim picture of premeditation and violence. This case is significant not only because of the brutality of the crime, but because it raises questions that resonate far beyond the courtroom. It forces us to confront the vulnerabilities in our relationships, the responsibilities that come with fame, and the systemic failures that allow such violence to occur. But at the heart of this story is Marina, a woman who should still be here today. She wasn't just a victim, she was a daughter, a friend, and a bright light to those who knew her. Her memory lives on through the love of her family, who have turned their grief into action, advocating for change and justice in her name. Her mother's words echo in the hearts of all who hear them. Marina was kind, selfless, and full of life. We lost more than a daughter. We lost a piece of our hearts. But we will keep fighting to make sure her story brings about something good. This case reminds us of the importance of safety, vigilance, and standing together against violence. It's a call to action for communities to support one another, for institutions to address systemic issues, and for individuals to honor Marina's memory by working toward a world where such tragedies are less likely to occur. Now we want to hear from you. What do you think about this tragic case? What lessons can we learn from Marina's story, and how can we honor her legacy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story impactful, please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and turning on notifications. We'll continue bringing you in-depth stories that uncover the truth, inspire change, and honor the lives of those who can no longer speak for themselves. Thank you for watching. Let's remember Marina Rogers and commit to building a safer and more just world together.